And there isn't one of us that doesn't want to be someplace else. This is what we do. Who we are.
Survive a war. You gotta become war.
Boom. Welcome to number 2, Rambo and Friends Monday edition. This is a special show, guys. I hope that everybody's excited for this because, a lot of times we talk and discuss things that are fun and speculative, and we connect comms and dots, and you guys know what this show's about. And every once in a while, as I've put the invite out there to many of my friends, anybody that's ever come on the show, to be honest with you, has been given an open door invite. If you have something important, right? You guys have heard me. If you have a message that needs to be heard, if there's something that this movement needs to know about that's going on, please just call me and let me know. And you guys are getting one of those this evening. So I'm really excited. I'm going to give Leah a bit of an introduction because, well, Leah Hoops is from the town I grew up in. Delaware County, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. And if you guys all remember, probably one of the most groundbreaking documentaries to come out about election integrity, right up there with Mike Lindell and some of the other amazing ones, was one that Gregory Stentrum and Leah Hoops put together, where, in my opinion, it has been documented that they caught them cheating red-handed. And so being that this young lady is literally from the hometown I grew up in, and that she has been out there boots on the ground fighting day in and day out, I would never, ever even put her off if she has something she tells me is important. So I'm looking forward to tonight's show, and I'm also looking forward to getting to know a new friend as well. So let's hear from the boss, and then we'll get into content right away. Guys, on your way in, this is an important one. Please, if you're watching, hit the thumbs up on whatever platform it is that you're watching on. Rumble, Thumb, pill.net, take the red pill. If you're watching over on X, hit the heart, drop a comment, share the show out, and please join us on these other 2 platforms so that we can hopefully get this message out to even more friends.
I wouldn't miss a chance to talk to my friends. These are my friends.
So, Leah, I like to do it one at a time so we don't step on each other. But hi, it's very good to see you again, friend.
Hello there, Joe. Thank you so much for bringing me on and for having Kelly on as well. He's a new friend of mine, too.
Yeah, I'm absolutely looking forward to this. And I didn't even give everybody all of your look. You've been on some really big shows. Steve Bannon. Do you want to tell everybody, like, where all have you been now? The ones you're excited about. If you're just hanging out with your friends and saying, like, hey, I was on this show. Where's that been?
I've been covered by pretty much everybody. Newsmax, I've been on the Epic Times, Gateway Pundit. I did, I've been covered literally by pretty much everybody, even Dan Bongino back in the early times, and Mark Levin, been covered by everybody. And then, of course, the local places around here, too, as well, which we can't forget because everybody started somewhere. You remember those days, Joe?
Yes. So. Yeah, it's actually really funny because when I see your name on X, I read every time because you remind me so much of home. You are such a firecracker.
I really tried to tone it down just a little bit, just a little, not a whole lot. But it's so funny you just said home. That's how I get made fun of all the time for my Delco accent. So that was very funny.
Yeah, I'm down in Florida now, but I, there's certain things I miss from home, and it's one of them is definitely the female attitude that is Delaware County. So yeah.
The smaller hoops. I usually wear the bigger hoops. We still rock those here in Delco.
As long as you don't start taking them out and putting your hair up, we're good.
Listen, taking them right out. I'm taking them right out when it comes to our government. So.
Well, all right. So let's meet a new friend from the show. Kelly, welcome to Rambo and Friends, bro. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you. Great to be here. And Leah, we must have bumped into each other sometime because I work for the Epic Times. I work for Mike Lindell. I've been on a lot of the shows as well. Steve Bannon. I think maybe we've been ships in the night here, but it's been so good to meet you and to take your story and be able to share that story. And I feel like I don't feel like it. We are making tremendous progress, and it's so good after what some of us have been through to have people coming together like this and working with this new administration to get some justice.
I totally agree, Kelly. So one of my dear friends actually is Emerald Robinson, and her wonderful husband. I've been friends with them for quite a while. She was early out there. She's become a very good friend of mine. Can't forget Emerald. She's the best. She takes a lot of flack, but she just, takes it on the chin and keeps going.
Oh yeah. She's a tough gal, man. She's a go-getter. Yeah, for sure.
She really is. So yes, I'm very, very grateful. And I just always thank God that, he's put us into, each other's paths, and it just keeps happening for the past 5 years. I get to meet really great people that have gone through some crazy, crazy times. And we're not alone, and God brings us together. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's been an amazing road. I mean, I'll say back just before all this insanity hit, I was working as editor-in-chief for a national medical publication and a medical education company. And I saw this coming, this virus from a long way off, and knew all about it. It was part of my work. I did work with some of the nation's top doctors. One of them was a colleague of Fauci. And I knew it was going to be a rather mild virus that would mainly affect the elderly and people with pre-existing conditions, or maybe preconceived, depending on how you look at it. But then I watched people start lying about it. Even some of the doctors that I worked with were very honest about it at first, but then it turned political. And then, some of us, I think, pretty early came to the realization that this was more than just some pandemic or some health scare, that there was a lot more behind it. It was an attempt at a coup to take over the greatest country on earth. So I certainly have a story. I know you do, but it's been 4 or 5 years of just really being attacked, struggling. It's been a war in every sense except kinetic, and fortunately it hasn't gotten there. But
hasn't it though?
Talks about its 5th generation warfare.
There's been a couple incidences that seem fairly kinetic, like say the Christmas bombing in Nashville in 2020, like maybe the shooting in Las Vegas. The train derailment in Ohio interests me heavily.
Yeah.
There's been more, like a ship hitting a bridge abutment in Baltimore, right? There's tons of things that I kind of sideways, just who I am. And you've already kind of gone in that direction, Kelly. I would like most people that watch the show are pretty well aware of who Leah is, because they know that I consider her to be a very good friend. You're already kind of going in the direction, but yeah, if you could introduce yourself before we really get into the topic, let us know. You just did a little bit on the COVID stuff, but who is Kelly, and let everybody know kind of who you are.
Absolutely, definitely kinetic, and you have to add Ashley Babbitt to that and the others who died at J6.
Right. Yeah, there you go.
I just say personally, fortunately, it hasn't gone kinetic, although I've gotten plenty of threats to kill my family, even mailed to my house. I've had people, retired military, law enforcement, both active and retired, protecting my family, and it could very well have gotten violent. So these people play for keeps. So I'll go back a little bit. I moved my family from Bend, Oregon to Tucson, Arizona in 2017, in part because we had been experiencing the left. Of course, Oregon is one of those deep blue states, unfortunately, and mainly just the cities. The eastern two-thirds of the state is pretty conservative. But we had some go-arounds there and experienced some persecution. So we moved out to Tucson. And by October of 2018, we opened a little coffee shop, put pretty much everything we had into it. I was doing freelance writing for marketing and advertising and different things like that. And that's kind of a long story, but we ran our business in a way where we let people make their own decisions. We never failed a health inspection, and yet the Pima County Board of Supervisors decided to set us up as if we had been non-compliant. They publicized that. And so one day I was sitting in the coffee shop. I handled all the marketing for the shop, and we started getting just a wave of fake reviews, a tsunami, threats, people calling the shop, threatening to kill our baristas and everything. And I found I said, what's going on? And people sent me screenshots, and they said, look, you're on this Pima County wall of shame. And I said, well, what's that? Well, they literally allowed people to go out and self-report on businesses that they thought were non-compliant. And then you get up on this list. Well, it turns out that the chair of the Pima County Board of Supervisors, we found out later, was the one who had reported us, even though he'd never been to our coffee shop. So the whole thing was a setup. I ended up getting invited to a Board of Supervisors meeting by one of the two Republicans that were outnumbered on the board. And wouldn't you know it, that was the only board meeting at that time period that was in person, and they really set me up. So I had those 3 minutes to talk, and within 30 seconds, 3 sheriff's officers were surrounding me and handcuffing me and arresting me for supposed disorderly conduct. I didn't know I was going to be on video, but it was on video. The very next day, there were lines out the door at our coffee shop. You know, I'm a father of 5. I was a business owner. And suddenly I was put in this position, and people were coming from all over the state, different parts of the country, wanting to see this guy who had stood up. People told me I was the only one for the longest time who was standing up in Southern Arizona. So I had this decision to make. You know, am I going to fight this? Am I going to try to hide from it? It really was no decision, because I don't run from a fight, particularly when people were being hurt. And what happened during that time was people started coming into our shop and telling their stories, and it was just horrendous what people were going through. So I'm cutting a lot of pieces out of the story, but over the next year or so, we started hosting meetings. It was the healthcare professionals, the police, fire, military, all these people who didn't want to be forced to get a vaccination. We got harassed by the county, and it was just this ongoing battle. They tried to shut us down. And about a year later, so one of the issues that came up that was very important to us was that these COVID policies that were imposed upon kids were driving them to suicide. The isolation, the forced masking, you're talking about sending kids to school in masks when it's 115 degrees outside. And our area closed the schools for 2 full years. It was egregious. And I knew, because I have a science background, I have a Master of Science degree. I knew that not only was this unnecessary, but it was harming kids. It was killing them. And I found out later the reason why they were keeping this in place was because they were getting millions of dollars from the CDC. So finally, parents got exasperated. I had several Freedom Talk events in our coffee shop to let people have a voice, including a young man who had been put on suicide watch because of just the confining, just crushing nature of these policies. We ended up having a meeting of parents and others in our coffee shop. I want to say it was April 26th of 2021. And the very next day, there was a school board meeting in Vail, Arizona. So everybody organized there and said, look, we got to go to the school board. We got to go to the administration and say, look, you're killing our children. Like, you're driving them to suicide. A young man in our neighborhood went out in the desert right outside our neighborhood and shot himself in the head.
Whoa.
So it was very serious stuff. Well, instead of listening to these parents, they demonized them. They tried to shut them down. I was the first one in that building, and I went in with some other guys, and they said, you need to leave. You don't have a mask. I said, that's the whole reason we're here, because we don't agree with this. And no, we're not leaving. You're going to let these people in. And I won't give a lot of details, or we'll be here all night. But that was the school board meeting. And you might've seen it where the school board fled or hid. The stories differ. And some people that were there swore in a new school board from the crowd that was there. And it went all over. It was on Bongino, Dinesh D'Souza's show. And this was, I'm sure that other parents were confronting their schools at this point, but this was kind of the shot that got heard around the world, because everybody saw this and said, yeah, that's the way you do it. And I was in the background, helping with all of this, guiding all of it. And I thought, well, it's motivational and it's great that they had this courage, but it's not the way you do it, because they're not going to lay down and take it. So I got demonized. I found out later that John Caruth, who's the superintendent of schools in the Vail, Arizona School District, which is a part of Tucson, that he had asked the sheriff's department to profile me and said that I wanted to get arrested, all this BS. Well, in that part of the county, the lieutenant over that area was a customer of ours and a friend, and he was very noble. He handled it well. But instead of listening to these parents, they tried to shut down the meeting. That's when they got angry. And then after the meeting, they portrayed us as violent and hostile. And I guess, it's an open carry state. I guess a couple of guys came to the parking lot with their sidearms, but there was no signage saying, probably not a wise thing to do, but nobody was using them to intimidate. There were just a couple of guys they probably forgot or whatever. But on September 2nd, after that, the same year in 2021, I had a call from a father saying, look, they forced my son to wear a mask. They're sending him home for the third time in a row or second time. And he took the mask off, threw it in the nurse's trash. They made him fish it out of the trash and put it back on his face. I'm calling the police to report child abuse. He said, would you please come, make sure I stay calm, witness this? So I called another dad and we went there. And that story, all of this, by the way, you can find on realfreedomtalk.com. We have a page specifically for weaponization against parents. But I ended up getting arrested again and for sitting in a school meeting, and the school district went out, completely fabricated a bunch of lies. And the beautiful thing is we have a video of the whole thing. So you can see that they're lying. You can see it, right? You can see for yourself. But the media collaborated with them. Suddenly I'm getting contacted by MSNBC, CNN, UK Daily Mail, just worldwide. And I ended up getting convicted. It was a kangaroo court trial. It was absolutely ludicrous. My lawyer before this said, all they have to do is watch the video and then it'll just be not guilty. Even if they found you guilty, it's misdemeanor 3 trespassing. It's like a parking ticket, right? Might be a $250 fine. Well, the other two dads, because they didn't have a voice and they weren't community leaders and de facto leaders, they got let off with the little $250 fine, right? Plea deals. Me, 100 days in jail and $10,000 in fines, which they later stole out of our house sale against state law. So, talk about a two-tiered justice system and political targeting. So, and by this point, people were trying to go after our children with CPS. I mean, we had so much weaponization against us. Getting letters at our household. I'm going to come in the dead of night, and it's not going to be soon. It's going to be when you least expect it. I'm going to handcuff your wife, I'm going to handcuff you and make you watch as I rape your wife and murder your kids in front of you.
Whoa! Who said that?
To our home mail address. We didn't know. It was just from Denver, somebody from Denver. But it was a lot of stuff like this. And so, your wife gets the mail and it's this. So that was kind of the last straw when they tried to go after our children. We have 3 younger children, and we decided to move. But I could have appealed this, and my lawyer said, you'd win hands down. It was ludicrous. It was ridiculous. But especially after they stole the $10,000 out of our home sale. And I really prayed about it, and I thought about it. And that was kind of what determined it, because I thought, well, there's, it's exactly $10,000 retainer for a law firm. And I'm going to put my family through poverty. But I was reading, Samuel Adams and John Hancock. They defied Governor Gage's order. They defied a warrant for their arrest. Samuel Adams responded to Governor Gage when he tried to bribe him and then tried to threaten him. He said, I've already made my peace with the King of Kings. Tell Governor Gage it is the advice of Samuel Adams to no longer insult the feelings of an exasperated people. So I chose to defy that. I did not go to jail. There's a warrant for my arrest in Tucson. We live in Tennessee. I decided instead, I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. with this. I'm going to go big. I'm going to fight for all of these parents. So I started fighting for people in Arizona, ended up fighting for people across the nation. And here we are in Washington, D.C. I've done it all on my own dime. And I'm sure Leah could tell you in many of the stories, because parents were targeted by Merrick Garland, the Biden administration, because we were labeled domestic terrorists. It's been really hard. I've been cancel culture out of a good job. My coffee shop was destroyed. They will do everything they can to silence you and take you down. But, and I'm sure Leah's probably this way too, the more they try to silence you, the louder you get.
Mhm.
So I've worked very, very hard to get to know people across the country. I know kind of everybody. There are people who are much more of a household name than me, but they'll come to me and say, can you get me in touch with so-and-so? All of this, none of this has been to like create my own star or a brand or something. All of this has been out of love because, and also because I'm pissed off. I don't like bullies, but you know, seeing these people, seeing their stories, seeing the suffering, you know, I chose that day in the coffee shop to stand and fight for these people. And I told God, I'll give everything up to my life for these people. And, you know, Matthew Lohmeyer, you might know him. He was the Space Force colonel who was kicked out of the military because he wrote a book called Irresistible Revolution on Marxism in the military. He said to me once, I said, Matthew, I'm really sorry that you lost your pension, you lost your career. And he said, I'm not, because if I walked away with those things, I haven't given enough for my country. And that's the atmosphere. You know, there are people who are out to make money. They're in it for themselves. They want a big name. But there are people who are kind of quietly having that courage and who are doing this because they love their country and because they don't like what they saw. So when people are coming to your business saying, look, they're killing my kids. My nephew killed himself. My wife is hearing impaired and she, you know, everybody's wearing a mask and she can't read lips anymore. So now everything's truly silent. Or somebody threatened my life and my teenage boy's life because we're not wearing masks. He's autistic. He can't stand up a mask on his face. You know, all these stories come out. So the good news is that over time, people have been finding each other, just getting to know Leah here, but Sam Sorbo has taken up the fight, Seek Smith from Mom Army and Dad Army, a whole lot of others. About a year ago, I wrote a letter to members of Congress. Jim Jordan's office got back to me within a couple of days and said, hey, you know, I'm setting a team of three or four staffers, and we want to know what you know. And we ended up going to Washington, D.C., me and Seek Smith and some others. And we met with, we were talking to Jim Jordan, Eli Crane, Andy Biggs, Paul Gosar, and Andy Ogles. And so we got that information out there. But, you know, Eli Crane is a great friend. And he, you know, if anybody complains about how lame Congress and Eli's at the top of the list. But, you know, you can only do so much with Congress. Unfortunately, they kind of cataloged it, did a report. But we just kept going and I kept going. And I said, there's got to be a way to do something real about this. And so I kept writing about it, going on shows, and ended up getting in touch with Ed Martin, who is Trump's fairly new now weaponization working group director. And we went again to Washington, D.C., June 2nd. And Sam Sorbo and Andy Ogles and I were on a 15-minute panel with NTD News / Epic Times, which was great. And I was planning to meet with Eli Crane again. But the night of that interview, Sam texted me and said, Kelly, be prepared because tomorrow we're going to the White House. And I thought, oh my gosh. Well, it turns out she and Kevin, you know, Hercules, Kevin Sorbo, went to an event. It was a dinner and they ended up sitting next to Vince Haley, who is Trump's director of domestic policy. He's been with Trump since the last administration. So she got to tell him all about this. Sam Sorbo, by the way, is amazing. She's got such a great heart. She's all in on this. It's never about her brand or her image. She's become like a sister to me, and kind of treats me like one sometimes, giving me advice and telling me where I screwed up. No, I'm just kidding. She's great. But we have this great relationship, and we got to meet, and Lisa Ricard was there. She and her husband do Andrew Magazine, and she lives in Virginia and very near to the DC area. So we got to meet with Vince Haley, start telling my story, but stories of other parents, talk about the issue. And I have to say, Vince was listening just like you could have heard a pin drop. He was so intent. And toward the end of our meeting, his secretary or whoever knocked on the door, and he said, make them wait. He wanted to hear this. Well, the interesting thing was too, when we first sat down in Vince's office, who should come by to retrieve his jacket he had left in that office but Ed Martin. And Sam had already been talking to Ed Martin, but she was under the impression that he only wanted to meet with Sam. Well, we all got to meet him finally in person there. And he said, no, I want all of you. So after we went to the West Wing, we had lunch together, and then we went to the DOJ, met with Ed Martin and his team. And it was surreal walking into the belly of the beast.
Yeah, I'd say.
The DOJ was the agency that had demonized us, pursued us. Like in my case, for misdemeanor 3 trespassing, and of course they stacked on more misdemeanors. And by the way, if I had done what the media said I did, or that the school district said I did, I would have been charged with felonies. I'd probably be in prison right now. It's just BS. It was misdemeanor. At worst, we stayed a little longer than they wanted, but that's a different story. But, the DOJ targeted parents. I found out through some emails obtained through FOIA that if I wasn't the first parent targeted, I was among the first, because they mentioned several instances that only I was involved in. But, they went around the country, there's parents across the nation, and now those stories are coming out, and people have been sending those to us. Sam and I, Seek, and some others have been processing those, putting together summaries. So we have a 33-page dossier that we sent to Ed Martin's office and to Vince Haley's office. And June 15th, we're having a press conference there in DC in the House Triangle on the east side of the Capitol building. And Andy Ogles is sponsoring it, because you have to have a congressman to be there and sponsor it. But we're going to have several people speaking at this press conference. And what we've done is we've drafted up an executive order, because we want Donald Trump to not only come out publicly and say these parents were wronged, and we want an official apology from the U.S. government, but also to provide restitution. And we have some very specific ways that could happen. But like in our case, we were homeowners. My wife and I had our first home together, very happy. I had a good job. We're living the American dream, not wealthy by any means, but kind of coming up in the world, especially after what we had experienced in Oregon and the persecution there. And they've taken everything. And my story is probably among the top 3 in severity, but it's not uncommon. And, like I said, we have 40 some families, but that's just from our little efforts. There have to be at least hundreds of parents out there. And they waged full scale war against parents. So we no longer have our house. We no longer have our equity. I have a criminal record on social media. I'm the guy who tried to kidnap a teacher. It's terrible. And I'm 55 and we're starting over like we're newlyweds. We've been 14 years,
Before I want to get Leah involved in this conversation, and that's a good spot to ask the question I want to ask. So, did you actually serve 100 days in jail?
Nope, I defied it, just like Samuel Adams did.
So you didn't even go. You didn't go sit at all.
Nope.
So they arrested you.
I went through 3 days of trial and sentencing, and I just basically, I didn't say it to their face, but I just said, pound sand, I'm not going. I'm not going to put my family through that. You're the ones that should be in prison, not me. And I looked up the words of some of our founders, even going back to Cicero in Rome. And the unanimous message was, you do not have a duty to obey unjust authorities. In fact, you have a duty to oppose them. So I said, no, I'm not going to jail when not only am I innocent, I did the right thing. So I'm going after them, and I'm coming with a vengeance, not because I want to hurt anybody, but because they did wrong and they knew they did wrong. John Caruth, the school supervisor, perjured himself in courts, easily provable, because after that day we went to the school, he wrote an email to all the staff saying the situation was resolved peacefully and the learning environment was not disrupted. Well, guess what? One of the charges was they added that I was guilty of disrupting an educational institution. So we brought that email into court, right? The judge wouldn't take it. She wouldn't admit it. So she completely denied us exculpatory information. Everybody knew he had written that email. We had it right there. And here's here's kind of the scale of how absurd this was. This principal, Diane Vargo, who, by the way, has a felony on her record for serving alcohol to minors. She was in the witness stand, and my lawyer got up and she said, "Did Mr. Walker get up from his chair?" "No." "Did he yell at you?" "No." "Did he curse at you?" "No." All these things. And my lawyer just sits down like, okay, and she couldn't lie about it because we had it on tape. So the prosecutor gets up, little scumbag that he is. We're talking like city court, like traffic court. He gets up and says, "Miss Vargo, did you feel like Mr. Walker could have done this? Did you feel like isn't he a large man?" Because I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. Didn't you feel like this? You don't get pronounced guilty for what someone might have felt. And if you watch the video, by the way, she had nothing but contempt for us. She wasn't afraid. So no, I didn't, and I won't. And I'm going to make sure that they're held to account for what they did. And that's sometimes what it means to be an American.
Well, Kelly, how did they skim $10,000 off of your mortgage?
So we sold our Tucson home. By that time, we were in Tennessee. And first, we went to close on our home sale, and we found out, oh, no, there's a lien on the house. You got to take care of that first. So we looked into it, and I thought, well, maybe homeowners dues or something. And we found out, no, it's because there's this judgment on you. And first of all, we couldn't close our home, which they had no right to block that. So we had to get a lawyer. $3,000 later, we get to close on our home. And we said, okay, now they took $10,000. And the lawyer said, "Oh, did you want that too?" I'm like, "Why did we hire you? Of course we want the money back." So he sent a letter saying, "Look, you're violating the Arizona Homesteading Act, which says that if you don't make over $250,000 equity on your home, you can't do a judgment even for a criminal conviction." And they just basically said, "We don't care. You're not getting it back." So they just literally stole it from us. And they knew that, we're going to get more into lawyer fees than it's worth. It's going to, maybe we get back less than we put into getting the $10,000. So it's that kind of skullduggery and just, I call it douchebaggery, that goes on. And they thought they could just do whatever they want to parents because, well, look, we're domestic terrorists. We can do what you want. There's no accountability. Nobody can stop us.
Kelly, you have no idea how hard I'm biting my conspiracy theorist tongue right now. Let me pass to Leah because I want to get her involved in this. Leah, do you want to add on to or start on in any direction as far as all this goes?
First of all, Kelly, I'm so sorry all that has happened to you. I can just tell you the emotional distress that I've suffered through. And the only way I get through this is like just through God and family and the support of other patriots like yourself and Joe. So I want to say thank you for what you're doing and thank you for your fight. It's very much appreciated. I was out early in front, like yourself. I knew this was a pandemic. I knew that they were releasing a bioweapon into our country in order to steal an election. I've been seeing that coming for a very long time. So I was out in front. I was protesting up in Harrisburg very early, starting in April of 2020. And that's when I met amazing patriots who were also standing up to the tyranny. And of course, they had to shut that down. And they went after us in many ways. But I was protesting out front of the media courthouse. I was protesting for small businesses. I was protesting for the children because they wanted to be a part of sports. It was ruining scholarships and their mental health. And I knew that the so-called, cure that they were giving everybody by shutting everything down was going to be worse than the actual virus itself. My son at the time had started his 9th grade year in his bedroom, and it destroyed his emotional well-being. And it pissed me off. And I fought, in my local school district, which is Garnet Valley, which is surprisingly an all Republican school board. But I started to collect people, if you will. I was networking. I do that just naturally. I network with people, and I knew that they wanted to keep us apart. And, our revolution was won by people meeting up in pubs and fighting county
Green
by
Dragon Tavern. Yep.
And I knew that we had to gather, and we started doing our own meetings. I met wonderful people that were fighting up in Allegheny County, who were fighting in Westmoreland. My friend Kim Wagan, who owns the Cracked Egg, she had to fight against the Department of Agriculture, which was weaponized by Josh Shapiro, who is now our criminal governor. So I was really fighting on every front that I could possibly think of. And then on top of, I was also investigating Delaware County at the time, because I saw that we had a Soros-bought district attorney pushed in. Our county flipped from Republican to Democrat after 150 years. The CTCL money. I was doing open source investigation and working with patriots and just blue collar people that were standing up to the tyranny. So I was fighting the vaccines. They're not even vaccines; they're bioweapons themselves. And it was terrible. I mean, I was having meltdowns with meltdowns from friends and family because I wasn't wearing a mask, and because how dare I not get a jab, and what do you mean freedom? You know, you're a grandma killer, and you know, you want people to drink bleach. And I was getting harassed on social media, and I was blocked 13 times for 30 days at a time on Meta. I was getting harassed. I was told I should die of COVID. I shouldn't get a ventilator. I was getting hate mail. I was getting emails, private messages. And my response to that was, I'm going to sit on my front lawn with my AR-15 in my control, and I wish you would. So that was my response to anyone that was threatening to kill me, because I have a right to defend myself and my family.
They never do. They're cowards, but it would have been a mistake to try to make good on me too.
So, you know, I set up my cameras. I was ready. And I was not going to back down. I knew what was happening, but you know, I recruited Greg Stenstrom for election fraud. But during that time, starting from, you know, April 2020 up until the several school board meetings, and I was going back and forth with the superintendent of Garnet Valley. I was ripping him a new one because they brought in the vaccine clinics for the kids. They were pushing all of the safety plans. My county was setting up a snitch line to report businesses. It was on all fronts, and they did it because it's psychological warfare. And I saw it early. And I was trying to educate people as much as I could. I was working with frontline doctors. I was getting people ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. Every fight I could think of doing, I did it. And when we started together, the parents of Garnet Valley, and God bless them, there was 50 of us, and I had planned this meeting, and I said, we're rolling in, no masks. And we went in there, and that was the first school board meeting. And they were trying to kick us out. And at that point, we had our video cameras on, and I said, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
They said that we were disrupting the meeting. They were going after the parents. So they end up calling the state police. State police come, they escort the school board out as if they were fearful. And then of course my local paper, the Daily Slimes, which is just, it's a rag. They do a full page, the front of the Daily Times saying that the state police came to the Garnet Valley School Board meeting, and then there's a 2-page article, and my name and my face is smack in the middle.
I hope you don't mind me interacting like a conversation here, and I want to let you continue for sure. But it was like the police acted like security guards for the school board.
I ripped them apart. I was screaming my head off at the superintendent. The supervisor. I said, I don't know who you think you are, but you're not intimidating me. I said, you might intimidate those people behind me. I said, I don't think that's going to happen either, but we're not going anywhere. You see that school district? That's my school. I pay for that. And I continue to come back every school board meeting. So during that time, that was the Daily Slimes, then the National School Board Association, about a month later. But that was only after I showed up the second time in a full-on, hazmat suit and a gas mask at the second school board meeting. And I told them flat out that I was there to protect myself from the vaccinated. So that went over well.
I like you. You're my kind of person.
Leah, Leah, can I make it personal for my audience for just a second? Because they know my story, right? I think many of them know you. They know where you're from. They know that I connect with you because you're where I'm from. Just a quick sidebar. I've been on the cover of that newspaper many times, actually. So is my mom, by the way.
It's
And
a brag.
and you know, it's my son's about to go in his 3rd year of school, and my mom still hasn't been seen in court.
That's not surprising. I'll get into Judge Whalen, who explained how the Delco runs things. A judge, a sitting judge who was the former district attorney of Delaware County, who's a total crumb bum. But these, and I'll get into the court system and the attorneys and everything else. But I'm trying to give you a full circle of what was going on like during that time. And I get on the phone and I'm like, so I'm number 12 on this example list from the National School Board Association trying to call parents domestic terrorists. So then I bought a shirt that just said, domestic terrorists, just add school board. And then I started rocking that around. And I was trying to use as much humor as I could at the time because it was insane. It was insane what we were going through.
You gotta laugh or you're gonna go crazy sometimes because the pressure is very intense. Let me say this real quick. There was one guy in particular who stalked our family, threatened to kill us, very specific death threats. Of course, and yet they had 14 Tucson police officers and the FBI investigating me for misdemeanor trespassing. All this online. Okay. This guy ended up suing me, my wife, our business, a couple other people who were kind of almost like bystanders, saying that we were cyber stalking him.
Oh.
I mean, we're talking like somebody threatening to kill my family who took us to court. And fortunately, our insurance policy for Viva Coffee House, which we owned at the time, the lawyer said, they covered it. The lawyer said, you know what? This isn't an admission of guilt or anything, but we're just going to pay that. We're going to offer him a payment to go away because they realized it'd be less expensive for them. Prior to that, this same guy who took us to court, he had gone to all these women in Tucson, 2 of whom, by the way, were working for one of the Democrat candidates, convinced them that I was cyber stalking them. They took me to court and they lost. The judge threw it out. He was angry at them. He said, you don't have any proof this was Mr. Walker. And even if it were, this is like a social media spat. So, and the local media was all over it, calling me a white supremacist terrorist, all the stuff. Well, the judge threw it out. And what does the Tucson Daily do to respond to it? Judge Antonio Riojas pronounced him innocent, but we all know he's guilty.
Sounds about right. So we have, so right at that time when that was all coming out, I ended up reaching out to Moms for Liberty and No Left Turn in Education, which I was very close to. And I said, like, what's happening? What are we doing about this National School Board Association? And then, of course, 400,000 members from all different groups responded, and they got lit up. National School Board Association lost 19 states. They lost funding. And then, of course, between that was Merrick Garland's nonsense memo, and then kind of a, oh, we weren't really going to use the Patriot Act, and we really weren't going to call you domestic terrorists. That's not really whatever it is that he said. But in that same month of October of 2021, I was named as a co-defendant with President Trump and Rudy Giuliani in a defamation case in Philadelphia. This was after, I had just spent a year and a half fighting in court to try to expose the election fraud in Delaware County and obviously do every, podcast, news media I could think of. I was already being defamed nationally, and then became the co-defendant with President Trump, lawfare suit number 1. And then we released the whistleblower videos the very next month. It was quite magical because they had no idea they were in a sting operation. And so they filed that case, and then we released the videos the very next month. That went viral. But during that time, I was still dealing with, so much, I don't even know, intimidation, harassment. We were illegally being surveilled. I had been visited by the FBI for false reports about January 6th. I was an alternate elector for President Trump. I had been visited illegally by the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office by special agents Ada Marchiel and Ben Watson, by the way, just in case anybody needs to know their names. They were personally sent by Josh Shapiro at the time, and I was still dealing with the ramifications of what was happening to my kid. I was watching him literally be destroyed, like depression, anxiety from being stuck in the house. Like he's a social butterfly. You know, he was playing sports at the time. That all went to hell. You know, it was insane. I literally couldn't work. I lost a lot of income in our business. I ended up getting a divorce in the meantime. This has been 5 years of hell. And then I was sued again in 2022 in November, and then I was sued again. This is all by the two lawfare cases against me for defamation. The one was with President Trump and Giuliani, and then the second one I was a co-defendant with Newsmax, The Federalist, Margot Cleveland. I mean, it never ended. Like my name was always somewhere popping up that I was, you know, a domestic terrorist, or you know, I was I wanted to kill people, or I was a January 6th, or that, you know, I'm a traitor, and because I was an alternate elector, like I couldn't keep up. But we were exposing the evil, and you know, finally, once this came back around, and I saw on social media about the National School Board Association letter, I was like, I need to like figure out who's, you know, taking care of this. And I saw that it was Ed Martin, of course, and I've been trying to get his attention because of the election fraud, which I know he fought against in 2020. So I look forward to talking to him about that. But I mean, I wish I would have known you sooner, Kelly, because I've won my own cases representing myself.
Likewise. Yeah, and I wanted to say, Leah, I'm really sorry you went through that too. And you can't know the level of stress unless you're here. And my wife has been extremely supportive, wonderful. She's strong when I'm weak and that kind of thing. But there are times when, you know, she's been weeping at night just from the sheer stress of it, and they wreck your life. My two oldest sons, who are my wife's stepsons, they didn't talk to me for years. Only one of them is now. He came back and said, Dad, I love you, I respect you, I'm sorry about the things I said about you. I admire your courage. And it was all because people used the media, the false media, the defamation against me. And I don't know if I'll ever get to speak to my older son again, because, you know, when the newspapers, unfortunately, particularly sometimes young people think, well, if it's in print, it must be gospel. But what I did with my other son, because he was at least texting me a little bit, was I sent him other newspaper articles from Epic Times and, you know, Washington Times and others, and testimonials from people. And I think that showed him, hey, there's another perspective on this. But you know, the family damage that it causes, you know, the tension in your family, the stress, it's so very disruptive. And I want to say really quickly, I'm interjecting here, but I want to say sometimes people think it's so simple. They say, oh, well, I'd take him to court, I'd sue him. Well, first of all, with what money? You've just been devastated financially. Second of all, can you find a good lawyer? Like after that first arrest, some people recommended a lawyer. And we had a little money because, you know, all these people lining up outside the door, they're literally like throwing money on the table. Here, this is for your defense. Well, we hired this guy. He tried to cut a quick deal with Pima County, and it was going to be he was going to start with a $2 million settlement, but it came with a gag order. You can't say anything more. My wife and I said, nope, we're not doing it. And we fired him because, you know, you're not doing this to get rich. You're not doing this for any other reason but that you want to save your country. So it's not that easy. You can't. And I know people, and I've seen people who are part of this dossier now, where they did get legal help and it's gone nowhere. And look at the lawfare in our system. I was writing about lawfare back in 2022, and I've written articles that pissed off Xi Jinping. I'll get into that later, but it's crazy because. Well, I've worked for the two top anti-CCP organizations in this country, probably the world. But it's funny because, you know, I won't say average, but, you know, just ordinary people like you and me, we've gotten this passion for the country. And you mentioned that this country was built in taverns. In our case, it was a coffee shop. And to me, that's a huge sign of hope, because I've seen with so many of these people who've told their stories that they have endured things. People have told me, Kelly, if I had experienced half of what you did, it would cripple me. I don't even know how you've lived through it. But we see these people who've borne this kind of oppression and tyranny and just something that could be crushing to most people. And they just keep fighting. They just keep fighting. And, I like to say there's a Louis L'Amour quote about one of his characters. He never knew he was licked, so he never was. And I say, like, if you never give up, you're never going to lose. And I'm pretty excited right now. I try to have realistic expectations, but what you went through is unacceptable. Some people want to say, "Oh, let's move on with life." Alexander Solzhenitsyn said basically, like, if we just move on from things, we let these people grow old, and we say, bygones be bygones. I'm paraphrasing, but he said basically our children will get the lesson that there is no justice, and a nation like that won't be worth living in. So it's so important. It's so important that you get some restitution. I think all of these people, one thing I'm seeing is that they have deep trauma. We do.
Yes.
We had PTSD. We moved here, and a car would stop in front of the house, and my wife would think, is somebody coming to arrest you? These guys.
I was just about to say this. Look, I realize how heavy this is, and I don't mean to make it light, but you are a brave man. There's literally snakes dancing behind you.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. They're from Tucson, but lovely, lovely creatures. Just enjoy the poetry of their slow movements back there. Yeah. But I'm gonna sick them on Merrick Garland. No, but I'm so glad to hear your story, and I'm deeply sorry for what you went through. You're not alone. I'm sure my wife and I'd be happy to talk to you anytime. But this thought occurred to me today, Leah. We stood up for children, and people came to me and said, because of you and what you did in that coffee shop, you saved lives. You saved my child's life, right? Because we stood up for the children, the federal government came in and has taken away a future from our children. Because I have 5 kids, 3 that are still in the home. We have nothing. We have nothing. Like, we've had to look for quarters under the couch practically, and by God's grace, we always seem to make it somehow. And I'm not saying it's easy otherwise. Everybody struggles, most people anyway, struggle to make a living, especially with this economy. But what they've done is they have destroyed your present and your future. And yeah, this is America. You can come back, but at what price, and how long is it going to take? And, maybe we'll bounce back by the time my kids are grown up. I don't know. So Ed Martin is great. And I do believe that he wants to bring that restitution. And I believe President Trump is going to do that too, because I think once he really gets wind of this and understands what's going on, he's a man of action. He's going to say, we need to make this right.
And it's a week from today, actually, July 15th is the press conference in DC. It starts at 11 a.m. And I'm very much looking forward not only to meeting you and your wife, but also to meeting any of the other parents and sharing our stories. I feel there's a lot of therapy in talking to other people who have been victimized, and even just what I try to tell people is that this happens and has been happening for a very long time on the local level. Like you were talking about how they put a lien on your home. The local governments do this all the time. A lot of it gets brushed under like the rug, or people get silenced. I've been hearing this for 5 years. I was a committee woman back in 2019. I was I share a birthday with President Trump, and he pretty much encouraged me walking down that escalator to get involved in my local county. But what we're seeing is that on the local level is where the corruption really has it's astounding what I have found out in this fight. And it's not just about election fraud. I became very good friends with Garrett Ziegler, who exposed the Hunter Biden laptop. I've become very good friends with people who have had their kids taken away from them by, CYS. I've talked to people who have had their homes taken away from them by local governments. Like this has branched out into something that is much greater than myself. And I've been able to help people, not just on the election integrity front, but, getting people off of bogus criminal charges, helping people, getting through legal issues. I've learned the law and I've learned the system and I've learned how to beat these people. I can tell you right now, I will be 3 for 3 pro se when this next case is going. I know it's going to be dismissed, and I'm going to go after every single one of them in court, and I'm going to win.
Good for
So
you.
I do have faith. I do have faith in that, and I would love to help people, especially on the legal level, because I know this happens everywhere. But it's much bigger than myself, and I feel like if we just stuck to like our own backyards and stuck to our own counties, that's really where our power is. It would be wonderful if President Trump actually took this up and brought attention to it, especially with all the lawfare and
Yeah.
talking about these things, the weaponization, even on the local levels, the state level, and especially the federal level, because it really does. It
Yeah.
trickles.
Respectfully, I say that this administration has to do this. They have a duty because
I agree.
they egregiously violated constitutional rights, broke the law. I think it was 14 states attorney general not long after Merrick Garland put his infamous memo out, and they found out about the letter that National School Board Association had written. They called it a massive fraud against the American people.
Mhm.
And sometimes people forget we don't go to the government hat in hand and say, "Oh, please give me my rights." They work for us, and that's something President Trump understands. And he gets a lot of hits for being an whatever narcissist, whatever people want to say about him. He has the humility to say, "We need to give the power back to the people." He understands that, and I do believe that he is going to do the right thing. Um, but I'm simply not going to take no for an answer, and it's not just for me and my family. One of the reasons I haven't pursued things legally, besides the cost, is if I had done that, I wouldn't be able to do the work I've been doing. And I did this not just for us, but for a whole lot of people, because it's kind of personal. But I made that decision to shield people and to put my life on the line because I love my country, and
Mhm.
this is in every way warfare. And I'll tell you, like, when we moved out to Tennessee, we couldn't find a rental for a while because I have a so-called criminal record. And we were surprised because it wasn't the one I got convicted for. It was the first one, which got dismissed. So it's incredibly
Mhm.
screwed up. And I'm looking forward to meeting you too, because you have some talents that
Mhm.
could be helpful for me and for others. And I
Absolutely.
admire your tenacity, and just you're going to win. You're going to win again, and we're
Mhm.
going to keep winning.
Can I interject with that? Because I think I found a way to spin my conspiracy theory head into something very legitimate.
Oh, now it gets juicy. Real quick, I just want to say, real quick, if you'd like to donate to help me with this trip to DC, um, we'll get there one way or another, but it helps out. Just go to givesendgo.com/freedom talk. But please continue.
Absolutely, and we're gonna definitely take time to do that for both you guys. Anything that you want to promote or spotlight or whatever. But if there's something that you guys are doing, and it's what I hope people take from seeing a pop up show like this with a message that's so important, is bringing awareness to what you've been put through. And I hope that motivates others, because you too. I mean, if you, I don't know if you guys are reading the comments or not, but you're getting a ton of love. People are calling you heroes, right?
Is that
That
on X that we should look for the comments?
I'm watching on 3 different platforms, but Rumble's the one I think
Oh,
specifically.
Rumble. Okay.
Yeah, I'm watching on Rumble, X, and Pilled.
So I'd love to interact with those comments. Should I go to Rumble, or would it be better to
Yeah,
go to X?
Rumble's probably got the most right now. People on X, there's about 1,900 watching. There's a little 1,200 or so over on Rumble, and a few hundred over on Pilled. But overwhelmingly across the board on all 3 chats, the word hero has been used a lot. And so I would hope that people would take this as motivation, right? First and foremost, support people that have been out there, literally boots on the ground, fighting in this way, that have been targeted the way that these people have, and stand up with them. With that, can you, Leah, can you just with more detail, like let everybody know again what's going on the 15th in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, sure. So actually, that would be Kelly's area, but I was invited. I'm very humbled that that this is. I was invited, and it's going to be a press conference discussing the weaponization of government and this dossier. Am I correct, Kelly? And there's going to be wonderful speakers there, and the parents that have been targeted by the DOJ.
Let me pull. I'm going to pull up the little cheat sheet here for the press conference.
So if there's anything, I know we didn't talk about this before the show, Kelly, but we're not doing some like structured presentation for people. This is about real raw information. Right. If there's something that you want me to pop up on the screen, there's a private chat button on the side of StreamYard there. You can drop any link in there and I can present it on the screen for you.
Great. I'll do that right now. I'm on StreamYard too. So yeah. I'll drop this. It's like a social media graphic for the press conference. Oh, it's not wanting to take it.
So while he's kind of working on that, I can talk about a little bit of the work that I literally just filed an 89-page filing today, and it is a bombshell. I don't know if anyone took the time to click that link for Telegram, but I will share it again after this show. But I basically put together an entire timeline of 5 years between public records, billing from Dwayne Morris attorneys that are representing the Board of Elections in Delaware County. I caught them colluding and conspiring to retaliate against me as a witness in their own words. And that is not a joke. So through public records, I was able to retrieve 1,000 pages of billing from Dwayne Morris, and I went through them like a fine-tooth comb. And I could see the retaliation increasing over a period of time. So I submitted an 89-page filing today with their own words showing the retaliation. And then I emailed all of the Dwayne Morris partners again, telling them that I'm coming for them and that also I've made criminal referrals inside of that 89-page filing, including misuse of public funds, fraudulent billing, retaliation, conspiracy against civil rights. So this is kind of where this weaponization of government, it happens on the local level. They're literally using public funds to sue me while I was exercising my right to petition my government and to redress my grievances. So this isn't over, and this is just an update I wanted to give everyone. This is another front of fighting for our constitutional rights.
Is that, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull his links and listen to you at the same time. So I apologize if I'm making you re-say anything, but is this what you sent me? They've been put on official notice, or is that something different?
Oh no, there's plenty of notices I've given them. I filed an official FBI complaint in January. I am filing disclosures this week with the DOJ, also the Senate and House in Pennsylvania, the Auditor General, and they've already been formally notified in court. These are the things that attorneys won't do and don't do because they're cowards and they're in it for themselves. But I have placed them on judicial notice through certified letters. I've written to the president judge with certified letters of their criminality, and also that if they don't do the right thing, that I'm then going to file against them in their person, and I'm going to file against them, I'm going to go after them, obviously, for money and try to get them either disbarred or removed from the bench.
So is that, this is so much to try to keep up with. I'm trying to do 97 things at once.
This is how, and this is how they silence the people, because they've been doing this for so long. And when I say they, it's Republicans and Democrats. It's both. They've been silencing the people for way too long, and they've been using public funds to do it. So they will threaten you. with lawsuits. They will go after your home. They will go after the deed to your home. They will go after your livelihood. They will smear you. They will go after your ability to make money. And I was told 5 years ago, don't step into the arena. And I obviously I didn't listen.
I will say this about you, Leah. I don't obviously see the stuff that happens like behind the scenes or whatever, but I do keep an eye on you and your account. I try to share whenever I see things. I'm a big fan of the work that you've done here forever. You get look, I get a little bit of hate online. You get a lot. Of course, you do. You do respond slightly different than I do.
Oh, I embrace conflict. I love it. I just bathe in it, and it warms my soul when people come after me, because all they can do is attack me with names. They can't dispute my facts, and when they can't dispute facts, then they go after you, your character, or they go after you.
Very true.
Names that doesn't mean anything to me. It's irrelevant to me. And I laugh at most of it, or sometimes I repost them, or sometimes I make clown videos and I troll them and tell them, this is the clown show. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
Well,
So,
let me go ahead and put this up on the screen. I did finally get this, Kelly. Is this what we're looking at here? I can even make it bigger and scroll through if you'd like. If you want to.
Yeah, sure. So this is about our press conference. And again, this is a culmination of a lot of work. Andy Ogles, by the way, has been great. Eli Crane, I had a long conversation probably now a couple of years ago with Paul Gosar at an event in New Jersey. They've been very supportive. So he's going to lead that. And what we're going to do is present this dossier with details of the DOJ's weaponization. And it says featuring dozens of parent testimonies. It's like up to close to 40 now. And we're calling for an executive order to provide restitution. And again, it could be thousands of parents that this has affected. So if you can, especially if you're in the area, come out to Washington, D.C. We want the biggest crowd possible to show that this is a serious issue. Sam Sorbo called it the most important, something like the most important cultural issue in our time, because it does affect everything, and it connects to the election, to election fraud, everything else. And like I said, I work for Mike Lindell. I wonder, have you met Mike, Leah, by the way?
Mike Lindell?
Yeah.
Yes, I have. I met him at CPAC.
Okay.
In 2021.
He's probably aware of your work.
Yes.
He just went to court, and this scumbag Eric Coomer took him to court on behalf of Dominion, and Mike was pronounced innocent, and yet he still is supposed to pay $1.5 million. It's another story. But so this event will be Tuesday, July 15th, 11 to 12 Eastern, House Triangle. And then confirmed speakers. We've actually added some more. The director of Moms for America is going to be joining us. Let's see. She is Kimberly Fletcher. She'll be there as well. But as you can see on the list, it's going to be Andy Ogles, Sam Sorbo, that Kelly John Walker guy seems kind of stubborn or something. Seek Smith, Sharona Bishop, the Honorable Julie Pickering, who's been involved in Texas education quite a bit, knows a lot of people, and Ed Martin. Schedule. There can always something can always come up where there's an emergency or something like that. But he has very clearly expressed support for this, so we're hoping he can make it. We're expecting him to make it out there, and if you follow Eagle Ed Martin on X, you'll see some great posts. Leah, you and I have been, I think, interacting on his thread.
Yes, we have. Yes. I just real quick. Well, it's so funny. Joe, you were talking about the hate comments. I'm going to give this guy a shout out. I do like to bring these bums.
Here we go.
Oh, I love it. This is Uncle Pump. So if you're listening, if you can give this guy some love, at Justin V69779, total crumb bum of the day. 3 more unemployed deadbeats draining and siphoning from real tax-paying Americans. Real Donald Trump should deport losers like you three unemployed and uneducated dipshits. Get a effing job, losers.
Wait, where was this posted?
This is on your live
On
on
my
your.
It's on X.
Yeah, so I'll just can I just read this for you? It's just a little bit.
Please do.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to pull it up.
My job is to make the tyrannical government my bitch. So that's where we are today, folks, with the hate. And this is what we deal with. This is like, this stuff cracks me up as if, like, I don't know, what was the point of that? Like, you think you're going to stop us from talking? Oh, please. We've had the government at our front door. You think an X post? I don't know.
I don't see it. What's the name? Oh wait, it's from an account I already muted. There it is. That's why.
It could very well be a bot or one of these.
No, if I already muted him,
workers in China.
Yeah. He's you ever see when like sharks swim around the ocean? They have that little annoying fish that like swims next to its mouth. Typically cleans it and like, makes them all shiny for everybody else. That's who Uncle Pump is. So yeah, this is an account that has been a troll to Rambo and Friends for a long time, but you're right. This is exactly an example of what I see on your stuff. So yeah, good to see you. Shout out Uncle Pump. Uncle Pump.
Uncle Punk, yeah.
But it's beautiful. Right above that, I want to give a shout out to my friend Sandy Weyer, who's an actual J6er who spent 4 months in federal prison for entering the Capitol. Love you, Sandy. She is a true warrior. Her life has been turned upside down. Another reason I fight, another fight that's been going on. I've been trying as much as I can to fight for the J6ers.
And I want to say something to Uncle Pump when you're done, Uncle Punk when you're done too.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
First of all, come say that to my face. Second of all, I have a job. I have a master's degree, and none of these are deadbeat dads. They actually have the courage to stand up in the face of tyrants, unlike you, who's going to be a little weenie and post on X.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, get a life, man. You wouldn't know a strong man if you stumbled across one.
No.
Just keep spouting online. These people, Leah here, she's more of a man than you are. Okay?
Yep.
She got more balls than you do.
I usually take the opposite approach. Like I don't feed the trolls is how I normally look at things. I know you.
Well, no, I don't either. I just once in a while it's nice to. Yeah. I rarely do that, but it's your show, so I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, no, I use. Well, it's okay. So I've been really blessed in that the show's kind of gotten a lot of traction, right? Leah, you've been here since we had like 200 or 300 people watching us, and you had my back and I had yours, and the show's like kind of grown. All of a sudden, we're like top 5 sometimes on the leaderboard on Rumble, and that is an absolute blessing. But it does come with more haters, so that happens.
And honestly, at this point. People think they're hurting your feelings. Nah, no. I've had worse. You're an amateur, whoever you are, Uncle Punk, and it's just entertainment at this point. And I feel sorry for you because if you can't clearly see the importance of protecting children, there's something wrong with you. Mm-hmm. You need to find God, or God will find you, and you don't want that to happen.
Look, you guys are out there literally fighting the war that is, undeniably important. And I'm in this position where I've worked on this thing to make sure that I can try to give people like you a platform. And if people want to try to crap on that, then they just make themselves look like asshats. I don't, it is what it is at this point. This is a message that needs to get out. This is a fight that you guys have been fighting and will continue to fight. And if we can motivate others to join in that fight, if that continues, we don't lose.
And I'll tell you something too. One of these parents is a self-described progressive. This is not a political issue. This is about humanity. And knuckle draggers like that, you got to stop looking at people as political pawns. You got to look at people as people, because we have people in both parties who've said enough's enough.
Yeah.
Like if you had people come and say, my kid committed suicide, what are you going to do? Just stand by and say, well, good luck with that? Or are you going to get involved?
Mm-hmm. Ask them who they voted for.
Yeah.
I've had plenty of conversations. It's interesting. 80% of the population like, or 90% of the population really agree on 80% of the, the issues. And when you talk to people and you stop using Trump and Biden, and you just talk to them on a real level, you're able to reach a lot more minds, to be quite honest. And we're all suffering somehow. I've helped people, doesn't matter, Democrat, progressive. I've helped plenty of people. If they need the help, the last thing I care about is obviously what they're registered as, who they voted for. I believe that every single person who is an actual American citizen deserves the rights, and obviously they deserve a due process, and they need to be able to fight against this tyranny. So I'm willing to help anybody. That's the difference between me and someone like yourself, Kelly and Joe, who are willing to help people that don't think like me, or people that don't look like me, or don't have all the same beliefs. I've helped plenty of people, and I could care less about party politics. Actually, I think it's something that we really need to tear down, as the two-party system, and that's a whole show in and of itself. But I do appreciate it. I am reading the comments. I do want to say thank you to everybody that is watching this. If you could, I am going to just try to ask, if you want to know more about the story, and what we've done, you can follow me on X, and you can buy the book, The Parallel Election, which I co-authored with Greg Stenstrom. And it is a real account of real life fraud that we've caught. And since then, we've built an even bigger evidentiary base, which I hope to hand over to Ed Martin when I see him.
And it's really laughable. By the way, I want to autograph a copy of your book.
Absolutely. I'm bringing one for you too, Kelly.
Oh, and I'll bring you one of my books. I have a book called Guidebook for a Son that I wrote years ago, a parenting book. But, it's really comical when people think that, there are grifters out there. There are people trying to make a living off of doing this. But, people like us, we've actually given everything. Like, if I'm a grifter, I'm the world's worst, because, man, I've lost everything. And, once, like, I put out a call to help with some travel to DC recently. I got a $25 donation. Whoa, man, I am just gaming the system, right? $25. And it's just funny. And it's a little sad, because I know people have, they have donor burnout. What's the word I'm looking for? But, and everybody is asking for money. But I want to say this, because so many people have come up to me and said, thank you for what you're doing, Kelly. I wish I could do something. I wish I could, I have to go to work. I have kids. I have this and that commitment, but they want to help. And what I say to them is, find somebody local, like Leah, who's on the front lines, who's battling, and just see what you can do for them. And maybe it's just a prayer or a word of encouragement. Maybe you bring a meal by. I don't know, but this, these people, Leah, I assume doesn't hold a particular office or title, but she's fighting for you. Like, Leah and I have fought harder than a lot of people sitting on their butts in Congress. I know that for a fact, because I talked to a lot of them. So, dipsticks like Uncle What's His Face can think what they want. They're just sad individuals, and I'm sorry that they've lost track of humanity. But there are some really good people out there fighting. They've been through hell. I rarely ask for any money or any help, and we've given everything. I mean, when we had our coffee shop, we turned our shop into a food bank, donating goods. And, people thought, oh, you're wealthy, you own a coffee shop. No, we had just dumped everything we owned into it, and we lost it. We lost all of it because of politics. So thank you so much, Leah, for what you're doing. And thank you all. I go off on Uncle Punk or whatever, but honestly, those of you who are giving good, encouraging comments, we really appreciate you. We appreciate you a lot.
You're literally getting tons of love in the chat. And you know what? I'll even speak to that, like, grifter concept. I don't believe in it. I believe people throughout this movement have learned a level of discernment. Sure, donation. If they're getting tired of that or whatever, I absolutely understand that. But if there's someone out here that's fighting for a cause I believe in, I have exactly zero problem supporting them. I think it's what this movement's the best at, to be honest. First and foremost, we're supposed to be capitalist by nature, are we not? Uh, so like, like people that I look up to tremendously, like, say Absolute Storm, or Dave from News Treason, or what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
There's just no way that you would be able to give it 100% of your time without the support and the support of fans, which is awesome. I don't even like using that term. People that within the family, but also support of sponsors that are also patriots.
Yep, absolutely.
So, yeah,
You're sitting there working your butt off right now, and you deserve to have sponsors and donations.
yeah.
You're doing a
The
service.
only sponsors you'll ever see on a show like this have been highly vetted, right? They're patriots through and through. It's American owned and operated. It's something that we believe in. They're out here fighting for a good cause, and so we try to do that. And I have exactly zero problem if somebody like you two come on this show and have any way, shape, or form that the people that watch the show can support you. I love doing that. Leah knows it.
Yeah.
I've promoted her books more times than I can remember at this point.
Yeah. I want to promote your books on my channel too. I don't do a show as much anymore, and I have paused publishing Freedom Talk magazine while we work on this issue. I wanted to interject because I've tried to look through some of the comments, and somebody said they're still suffering J6. We've been fighting for them too. In fact, Felicia Conold, she's a J6er. She got arrested for just walking around. She didn't do anything. She came to our coffee shop for her baby shower not long after the J6 event. It's where I met Grant Stinchfield. This guy showed up. I'm like, who's this guy? He's really opinionated. We've become really good friends. But, flash forward 2.5 years, my wife and my family were living in Tennessee. We kept in touch with Felicia, and she's a single mom. She's got a little 2.5-year-old boy. She has to go to DC for sentencing. Her mother is antagonistic, wanted to take the child through DCS. She could have lost her little boy, wonderful little boy, to the state. Without hesitating, we said, we're going to take him into our house. So we flew my wife out. We didn't, again, we're scraping by, but we flew her out. She got power of attorney signed off. Felicia drove up and dropped Henry off at our house on her way up to DC. We were expecting to possibly keep the little boy in our household for 4 years because that's what she was facing. When she talked about her love for her kids, the judge was lenient. So we ended up keeping Henry for about 2 months. Wonderful, sweet little boy, but, typical loud toddler tantrums, everything that they do. It was a little hard on us because we hadn't had toddlers for a while. But, and then the reuniting with his mother was so great. And I talked about Lisa Ricard up in Virginia, who's helping with this. She flew out to bring Henry home. She came and visited us here. It was like this small community effort. It was wonderful. And, I saw somebody commenting on Felicia's Facebook about, oh, you're a dirty terrorist, all this stuff. Like, she's a mom. She's a wonderful gal. She's like 5'3". She's a devoted mother, a wonderful young gal. And all she did was walk around at the Capitol, and she got caught up in the crowd and swept into the Capitol. But, it is like, one thing I want to mention, guys, is that we are very focused on the weaponization against parenting issue right now. But some of us have been working on the larger concept of Americans being targeted politically, because there's really no reason to keep it siloed where you're a J6, you're an abortion protester, you're a Catholic, you're a parent who's weaponized against, you're a so-called election denier. Tina Peters is sitting in prison now for 9 months and counting. We want the government, we want the Trump administration to recognize and say, well, and Trump has, but to say, look, this was a war against the American people. It was political persecution. And look at all of these Americans the same. We can stand together like J6 and people who are, and some of our parents that have reported on our dossier are J6. But we can come together and say, look, we're going to work together on this. We're going to present a unified front and say we never want to have this to happen again, and we want the government to make it right. I know Ed Martin has very much been in favor of the idea of restoration for some of the people who were swept up in the just political propaganda around J6, you know. So yeah, thank you guys for commenting. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, go to realfreedomtalk.com. I friends with David Sumrall and some others who've worked on behalf of the J6ers, and we're, you know, for what we can do, we have a voice. I'm a writer and speaker and different things. We're going to stand up for all of you.
So before I give you guys final thoughts, because there is a ton of people now asking how they can support. I saw at least one said, I have Venmo. How can I support you? I want to promote this event that's happening on the 15th just one more time. Kelly, if you want to tell everybody just one more time again, so that in case they missed it the first time, because I also want to tell you, you now have my cell phone number. This goes for you, of course, as well, Leah. If there's a strength that I have for people like you, it's that I can amplify a message. So if there's any video taken this weekend or links or posts that you share, as you know, if you want to videotape
sure.
speaker and send them to me, I can not only play them on the show, I can share them out on X. I would love, that's literally why I do this, so that I can help amplify those type of messages.
I will. I'll repeat what's happening. And by the way, did you get that video of my first arrest that I texted to you?
No, I just didn't.
Maybe I can email it to you if you want to. In the chat, send me your email. That's a very dramatic video, and it just shows the raw, naked tyranny that we were under. The people watch this video and they get really angry. I had some Chinese dissidents who had fled to the U.S. and they said, "This doesn't happen in America. This happens in China." Like they were shocked. But actually, Leah, I could email it to you and you could email it over.
I'm putting my email in the private chat as we speak. Yeah, it's too compressed on my phone, text message version. But while he's doing that, Leah, do you want to speak on what's happening on the 15th before we start to round it out?
I'm actually I'm pumped to just even be a part of this, to be quite honest. This is something that kind of, I don't know, I thought was just over and done with. So when I heard that this was something that they were rehashing, I was tickled, like I was beyond happy. And then I kind of forgot too, which is, I don't know how you forget this kind of stuff, but it was happening at the very same time. I think I was so wrapped up in the election fraud stuff and the case when I was the, co-defendant with Trump. This was happening at the very same time. So this kind of got pushed to the side. So I'm happy that someone's actually doing something about it and that we're all going to be together. Just more opportunity to, bring God's warriors together, in my opinion. And I'm very excited to be with everybody. And I hope a lot of people show up. I hope a lot of people share this event. I think it's going to be amazing. And the more pressure that we put on our representatives, and obviously the Trump administration, they're going to move. They're going to move.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited for it too. And it is the culmination of a lot of work. If it's going to be a great crowd of people, you're going to be able to talk to some lawmakers and people who are working hard on your behalf. I'm going to stay as long as needed and as long as possible. Sam Sorbo will be there. You're going to be in front of people who are both strong and caring. And, if Uncle whatever wants to come by, I'm happy to talk to him peacefully.
That's funny.
And I am my own security, so.
I'm a self-defense instructor, so I'm well trained in self-defense. I'm a Krav Maga instructor. Actually, been.
Oh, really? I studied Krav Maga.
Been training about 10 years.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. You'd probably kick my butt because I just took it for a little while, but I did boxing and all that. So anyway, so we would love to have you out there if you can go. It'd be fantastic. Of course, the press conference is about an hour, but there are going to be a lot of other things happening. I just found out. Let me see here. Did you get that video, by the way, Joe?
I did. Yeah, I'm going to pull it up here in just a second.
Great. So I found out that a senator, I need to look it up because somebody just sent this to me, is going to be doing a hearing on the vaccines. I'm going to look that up because that's important. It's on the same day. She's probably going to come to ours, but she said, let's see. She said, I saw your post about your event in DC next week. I'll possibly be in DC at the same time. Senator Ron Johnson's COVID vaccine hearing is scheduled that same day. So she's going to try to register for that and also give me that information. But one thing about Washington, D.C. is it's remarkably easy to go up and visit congressmen. Of course, if you're going to make an appointment, that's best. But I've gone through the halls and dropped in and been able to talk to representatives. I took a video where I was just at outside AOC's door with little hearts coming out of my head. Yeah, really. I mean, AOC's office is right there, and I was in one of those tunnels between the congressional houses and walked face to face, and Adam Schiff came right toward me. I'm kicking myself I didn't get a picture with him, but certainly you can visit your reps. If you go out, you can talk to them, tell them your stories. I never knew, Leah and Joe, I never knew how easy it was to talk to congressmen. You just go through the security and you can go visit.
Is it really that easy?
I can go talk to my useless Senator Dave McCormick.
Yeah, for real. No, it is that easy. And like, this is the people's house. I haven't actually gone over to the Senate in all my visits there. But it's the people's house. You go through security and you can pop in on offices. They have staff. Usually there are a lot of 20-somethings, but if that congressman's available, there's a good chance you could talk to them. If not, talk to the staff. They're very helpful. Some of the staffers there are just amazing. And they've been very helpful with this press conference. So if you can make it, it would be much appreciated. We'd love the support of having some bodies there, some voices. And like I said, we'll stay and talk. It's going to be a whole day. I'm probably going to go up to Epic Times and NTD Studios and visit them and some other friends out there. But I think it'll be an experience. I'm hoping to drive my family up so that my kids can see DC for the first time. I don't know. We have a minivan with about 250,000 miles on it. I call it stylishly. I call it pre-distressed because it's got some dings and oopses on it. But hopefully we'll get up there. But for all you hear about Washington D.C., it really is beautiful. And going now versus when I went when the Biden administration was in office, there's a whole different feel and spirit to it now.
Well, let me just recap this before I pull up that last clip and give you guys final thoughts today. But Representative Ogles will be leading a Capitol Hill presser on the DOJ targeting of school parents, and that will be held this Tuesday, July 15th, 2025, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern in the House Triangle in Washington, D.C. Guys, if you are in or around that area or can make the time to get there, I highly suggest doing it. And if anybody does, please send me videos, information, so we can share it out. Obviously, these guys are working day in and day out on things that, not everybody is able to. In my opinion, they are heroes through and through. I love Leah. She's been doing this as far as election integrity is concerned from day one. And it's amazing to meet you, Kelly. I'll take a minute and see if we can get this to play. I've been trying to load it the whole time here. But here is the video you sent me over.
No, you're going to hear this because your health department made us hear this.
Mr. Walker?
You're going to hear this.
Mr. Walker, if you don't watch your language, I'm going to have you escorted out of the room.
Your health department threw us under the bus. And the constant barrage of this kind of language
Sergeant at Arms
has been sent.
Please escort this man out of the hearing room.
No. Whoa. Your health department threw us to the rage mob.
I've asked you to behave and to.
I have a right to speak.
Behave.
I have a right to speak.
Let go of the podium.
I'll censor the language, but you need to understand that my family has been submitted to threats. My family has been submitted to threats because of you. Death threats on my staff. You are violating my civil rights.
You are resisting.
I'm not resisting. I'm just strong. You're going to hear from me. You're going to be getting a class action lawsuit. Let me get my things, please.
No problem for you.
Is this how you want to do this?
Sir, I asked you to abide by certain rules, and you would not.
Look, I didn't mean to laugh for anybody that could F them. I'm just strong, my man. Yo, look, I look up to you, bro. That was awesome. That was really cool. I'm
Yeah.
so proud of you.
Oh, thanks. Well, asking me to behave, that's ask a lion not to roar.
If somebody asked me to behave, I would have lost my shit. I can't believe you handled yourself that well. I'm just strong.
Yeah, so somebody said, "Wow, what a bunch of corrupt a-holes, holy F." It's like, yeah, I mean, and here's a behind the scenes story, because they took me back to the booking room. I'm handcuffed for the first time in my life. The bald officer you see, he's back there with me, and he says, "Oh man, I'm in so much trouble with my wife." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "Well, we're patriots, and why did you do that? Why do you have to do that?" Like, I put him in a bad position. I said, if you're patriots, why did you arrest me? He said, "I didn't want to lose my job." I said, "Your job is to protect people like me from people like that." And I gave him an earful, and I said, "Look, I respect law enforcement, but you guys, you swore an oath to the people." And it was very interesting, because from the lady in the parking garage who hardly spoke any English to the contract security people, they all afterwards were like, this lady in the parking garage said, "I saw that and I like you." And it was just like everybody there was under oppression and nobody was standing up. And it was traumatic. I didn't see it coming, but we're their bosses. You go into these meetings, they're sitting up above you. We need to change things to where the school boards and such sit below the people.
They
The sheriff cannot take an order from a school board member. They have no authority to even order arrest. But most importantly, you're allowed to curse. It's covered by the First Amendment. And if you look into Justice Brennan, who talked about sometimes that expression can be caustic, vehement, and very extremely sharp, unpleasant attacks against public officials, is 100% covered under the First Amendment. So good for you. Honestly, I dealt with this in court. Honestly, in court, we showed up one day. I was there. I'll tell like a real quick story, but 2 weeks prior, being in that same courtroom, I was watching a court case right before the one I was supposed to be in, and there was a young man, who was there for triple homicide, and they had one sheriff there, one sheriff. We went in 2 weeks later. There were 12 of us who were filing a petition to redress our grievances for a recount. Take a guess how many sheriffs they had in that courtroom for a civil hearing. I counted them, 12. I walked into the courtroom. I walked right up to the judge, and I went 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, "What are we in China?" I said, "Are you serious with this?" I said, I'm not doing anything until they are removed." I'm like, "If you think that these are going to intimidate me, not happening." I was like, "I do not live in China. I live in the United States of America." I was like, "And this is your doing." I said, "Did you order these people?" I was talking right to the judge. I said, "You order these people to come into this courtroom, these officers?" And he looked over at the head of the sheriff, and he was like, basically like, and then they brought it down to 2 sheriffs. But you're not going. This is not. People need to start standing up. They need to start fighting back, just like you, Kelly, just like me, just like Joe, just like the many people across this country. And this is why I love America. This is why I love this country. And I feel like this is an amazing time to be alive. I do. I really do. People have a choice right now. And your choice is you either be a patriot or you're a traitor. And those are your 2 choices. That's what it comes down to. You have to fight back against this. Where are you going to go? Where are your kids going to go?
Yeah.
Hey, let me know what you guys think of this idea. Okay. So this obviously my show's at 2:00 in the afternoon. This is a show that we kind of shoehorned in here because the event's coming and I didn't know when else to put it on. If you guys are willing, I would love to do a wrap-up show on the other side of the event. If there's any video taken that you guys would like to present, if there's any message that gets put out there that needs to be heard, I can even use that clip, Kelly, if you'd like. If I put a clip out there and present the show that way, it gets a lot more engagement. So a lot more people will show up.
Yeah, please do. And on the realfreedomtalk.com page, we have a weaponization against parents page, and there's lots more video there. In fact, we would like to do a documentary on the targeting the parents. I have a preview, kind of a trailer for that. But there's a lot of video, there are articles, there are resources, there are documents. Like if you want to see the report that Jim Jordan and the subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government, that's on there. The memo that Merrick Garland sent, you can get a really good education on that there. And I'm going to be on Bannon's War Room the day before, on the July 14th. And Bannon's been very supportive of this. Eric Metaxas has been wonderful. A whole lot of people understand this issue. So there are going to be a lot of people watching. And I know President Trump watches Eric Metaxas' show. And it's funny, we went into Ed Martin's office. He's got a picture of Bannon and some other people there. So this is getting attention. This is a community of patriots from Washington, D.C. on down. The energy of these people, of Ed Martin and Vince Haley, was immensely positive. They're godly men. And I'm anticipating that good things are going to happen, because I have a feeling, Leah, you're like me. You're not going to stop until they do. Leah, you're a tough customer, and I'm totally impressed that you're a Krav Maga instructor. That's so.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I can definitely, guys in the chat, if you want to see that wrap up show, throw a 1 in the chat. I love polling the audience to see if they're into it. I can get somebody like Awakened Outlaw to come on, or Dave, and we can promote it, and we can get it much bigger than we did today, because it's not typically my normal time. But I would love to do that. Promote it with your video. Get any message that comes out in the event. Anything further that you guys want to go into, I think that it's a great idea, and we're already getting ones. So
I'm going to say one quote, and then I'll shut up. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who spent 8 years in the Soviet Gulag. You can read the Gulag Archipelago. It's very good. He wrote One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. Suffered under the Soviets. Here's a power that Leanne and I have, and all these other parents. And if you're a parent who's been through this, or you've been targeted, I want you to remember this. You only have power over people as long as you don't take everything away from them. But when you've robbed a man of everything, he's no longer in your power. He's free again. We have nothing to lose. We have everything to gain, and we're not going to stop. We'd give our lives for this cause and for this country.
Right. Man, we just want to be left alone. He also said that as well. So just leave us alone. They brought the fight to my front door. So they're dealing with ramifications.
That's why I use the Rambo avatar. What happens when the guy that just wanted to be left alone gets involved?
Right. Thank you, Joe, so much for having us on. So great to meet you, Kelly. I look forward to actually meeting you in person on Tuesday, and everybody else.
Likewise. Well, we'll be there for your audience. If anyone can make it out, we would appreciate it greatly. And we're hardworking, but we're not ivory tower superstars. We're just people, and we would love to meet any of you who can make it.
Well, that's amazing. And I hope that we did at least motivate a handful of people to go down there and support what's going on. I do want to give you guys both the opportunity before we get out here to let everybody know, as they were asking, how they can support you. Leah, why don't you go first? Your book, your website, anything at all.
Sure. So you can follow me X at hoops, HOOPES _ Leah, LEAH, and repost my stuff. Be great if you could tag some big names too, to bring eyes and ears to Delaware County, Pennsylvania, which is where the fight is. It is the Blueprint for Deception, which is the name of our book, The Parallel Election, A Blueprint for Deception. And you can find that at www.parallelelection.com.
Parallelelection.com. And Kelly, if you want to take the time to do the same, anybody can support you, where they can find you on social media, anything at all, my man, it's your floor.
Well, the first thing I would like you to do is go to realfreedomtalk.com, visit that Weaponization Against Parents page. We have a forum on there that Seek Smith from Mom Army and Dad Army created, where you can report your experiences, because this document is living. We delivered it to Ed Martin and Vince and such, but we're continuing to add to it. So I would say, first of all, take courage, find people who've been targeted, who've been abused, stand with them. They need community. We all need community. If you'd like to donate, I didn't form a nonprofit or anything like that because I'm not doing this to make a career. I'm not trying to make an organization. I simply, when I get donations, I use it for travel and some of the things that I do. So if you'd like to help, you can go to givesendgo.com/freedom talk. I do have a Venmo. I think it's at Kelly-Walker-150. And we've had times where we've had a lot of donations. I've had really good work. We were making a lot of money when I worked for this anti-CCP group. They paid me very well for my writing. And whenever we have more than we need, we find people to help. We want to give it away. So thank you for considering just donating. I'm trying to get up there, and every bit will help.
All right. Well, you guys are absolutely amazing. I actually can't wait to do it again. I can't wait to hear from you about how the event goes. I do have a couple thank yous to say over here, one of which is actually really funny. I don't know if I can even read this on the air, but I guess I'm going to do it anyway. Wisconsin gives it a cookie. The only strong men Uncle knows are attached to the D's. He sucks. Sorry, I had to read that one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Honestly, I hope somebody like that will change and will find humanity, because we had come down from Seattle. They moved down to Southern Arizona. A Black lesbian couple that was in BLM in the autonomous community, and one day they suddenly woke up and they said, "This isn't about love. This is about hate." And I have seen people on the left turn around and realize, look, this isn't what the left is doing. Is not good. It's hateful. So I hope Uncle whatever, if he's a real person and if he's not living in his mom's basement playing video games, that he'll
Actually, one of those great people is Brandon Straka, who started the Walkaway movement, who's become a very good friend of mine.
Really?
Yeah, he was on the left, and he is not anymore. And obviously, he started the Walkaway movement and has definitely moved people to at least to the center. So yeah, Brandon's a friend of mine. But
I would love an introduction. That would be fantastic.
Okay.
Reach out to you.
Not a problem. I do want to say thank you. I've been reading all the comments. They are humbling. This is why I love coming on your show, Joe. Really, it reminds me of, this is why we do what we do. It's a dark road. It really is, and you kind of get stuck in your head a lot. But everyday people keep us motivated. At least I can say that for myself to keep fighting the good fight. And God bless every single one of you. If you could just say some prayers and say some prayers for Tuesday as well.
I've been blessed enough here recently, Leah. I don't know if this happens to you, but I started getting recognized here and there. Like we got recognized at a baseball game, and Dave and I were out together, and there's a couple others, and they always want hugs. Like everybody always wants to hug you and say, like, keep up the fight. We're all doing great. And it's just, I don't even know. It's humbling. It's unbelievable. And it's motivational. It makes you want to keep right on going. And I do hope that these guys did that for you tonight. I can't even count the number of ones. Everybody wants to see you guys come back, and we'll be able to triple or quadruple the audience if we do it at 2 and we plan it and promote it, etc.
There was a father right after that school board meeting who saw me in the Wawa, and he grabbed me and he looked at me and he goes, "I just want to say thank you for your fight. Literally, my daughter's senior year, which was 2020, was stolen from her." He said, "We were all literally watching you like it was a show on the school board meeting and knew that you were fighting." Like, those are the moments that keep you going. So thank you again. Thank you so much, Joe. Appreciate all your hard work. Kelly, your story is amazing, and I really am looking forward to Tuesday.
Likewise, you're a warrior and a patriot, and I'm glad that I get to meet you here and then in person. That'll be great. And
Awesome.
And Joe, great to meet you too. We'll definitely come back on.
I can't wait to do it, bro. Thank you so very much for everything you do. I just got 2 more quick thank yous to say. I don't want to leave anybody out. Jeff Nack gifted 1,000 gold pills. Awesome. that was directed. That awesome was directed at you guys. So thank you very much. And this was from very on in the show. Bengal Tiger 8 gifted $5 and said, masks, a cover for later reveal. What a severe masking of truth. We're in X Tiger X. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I'm grateful. Thank you for the support of the show. I cannot wait to have these two back. I want to say thank you to the moderators, everybody that comes out. PFC Peanut, I saw you in here tonight. KDD, I see you. Karen Hare over there on pill.net. And guys, the best thing you can do right now to make sure that more people see this is I believe we're already probably going to be on the leaderboard with the amount of positive affirmation buttons you guys have hit over on Rumble. But if you could, on your way out the door, help get this message out there. The higher we are on the leaderboard, more people will watch this show. The more people will see the message and maybe potentially even go out there to DC on the 15th. So thank you guys all for being here. Thumbs up on Rumble, red pill over on Pilled. Hit the heart, drop a comment, share the show over on X. And I will stay, Leah and Kelly, you both have my number. So just call me, keep me updated, and maybe we'll do like a week or two after the event. We'll get you guys back on here.
Sounds good. We're fighting for y'all out there, and it's not been an easy road, but it's an honor and a privilege to be able to fight for you. So keep hoping and stay encouraged.
Amen. Leah, any final thoughts?
Actually, there's one more person I would like to give a shout out to.
Here we go.
Adam Villarreal and his wife Beth. He was AJ Sixer. He's become another friend of mine. He is, kind of suffering as well. He was on the run for 4 years and then got his pardon. His story is absolutely fascinating. And despite everything that he goes through, he continues to help others. He actually had me on his show. Adam is another person to follow. Great human being. So
we started talking not too long ago. I was actually going to invite him to the press conference.
Yeah, Adam's great. Really good person. So that's it. Other than that, I will look forward to seeing you on Tuesday and the follow-up show.
Yep. Great. And look, you don't have to follow Qger ups to understand what where we go, one we go all means. And I got love across the board when it comes to this movement. You guys are absolutely amazing. I hope that the event goes, better than even planned. And definitely keep us updated. And we'll see you guys again shortly after. But thank you for being here.
Thanks, Joe.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Here we are at the precipice, and I can see it, a glimpse of light piercing through the turbulence, surrounding in the darkness, closing in. Clouds are starting to form. I'll stand with you in the storm, through the rain and the hail. I'll take your hand. Let's go. Is it. They've sealed her fate. It's time to
obliterate the deep state.
Well, I want to thank everybody. Very, very special people. And it is true. This is my first stop, officially. We're not talking about the ball. We're not talking about even the speeches. We may have to get you a larger room. You know? And maybe it'll be built by somebody that knows how to build, and we won't have columns. Do you understand that? We get rid of the columns.
we are 40K foot view, and I can see it. Those asleep have awoken, pushed through, rising out of the darkness, closing in. Clouds are starting to fall. I stand with you in the storm, through the rain and the hail. I'll take your hand. Let's go.
Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning. It's called the swap. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? a big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Obliterate. Totally obliterate. Obliterate. Totally obliterate. If you want to really see something that's said, take a look at what happened